Alrighty, so let's go ahead and take a look at the Escort Redline. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, this is Escort's most sensitive detector. This is going to give you the longest range out of any windshield mount radar detector you can get today. So, its specialty is going to be long range performance. So if you're driving out on the highway and you need to get signals way out far away, this is the one to get. Especially if you've got a lot of hills, a lot of curves, trees, things like that, things that can really block and absorb a radar signal. Having a really sensitive detector can actually help you, even at close range, to get a signal that a weaker detector may not actually be able to get. So if you want maximum performance, this is the way to go. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to take a look at the Redline itself, kind of look at it up close. We're going to go over a lot of the features, the options, all the different settings that it has. I'm going to explain what the different settings do, what they mean, the pros and cons of everything, demonstrate a lot of the stuff, and tell you the settings that I run as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the detector itself. So, right up here in the front, you can see we've got the main display. This is going to tell us when we've got an alert, what settings we're in, all this kind of stuff. So, this display, pretty simple. There are a couple buttons that you'll see right down there. You've got your power button, you've got your volume button / mute, and then you've got your sensitivity adjustment right there. You've also got, with the combination of these two buttons, you can actually go in and change some of the programming settings, which we're going to do here in a bit. Okay. Up on top of the detector, kind of look at it like this. Right here, this is going to be the release switch. So when we have the detector actually mounted, it slides into the connector. Press this here, and it'll allow you to unlock it. You've got the two vents here, just to allow it to breathe so it doesn't overheat. Up on top, this is actually the rear laser detector. So right there, it just helps it to detect laser coming from behind. Let's see, right here on the business end of the unit, you've got the condensers for the two horns. One is for X band, and it has a separate horn for K and KA band. So two horns there, one behind each one of those things. And then, let's see, underneath here, you've got the speaker. That's where the audio comes from. And then on the side, you've got the plug-in for the power, as well as right here is a plug-in for headphones. So if you're on like a motorcycle, for example, you can plug it in there and you'll be able to hear it right in your ear. One note about this is a mono plug, not a stereo. I'm not sure if that's mentioned in the manual, but you do need to have a mono headphone jack. If you do a stereo one, it might work, but it can also damage the detector, so you'll definitely want to run a mono cable through there. Cool. So that's a look at the detector itself. So next we're going to go ahead and go in and take a look at the different programming settings. Right now we've got it set up as factory defaults. I went ahead and just reset it. It's straight out of the box the way you would get when you open it up as a brand new unit. So we're going to go ahead and go through all the different settings here, and I'm going to explain, kind of what they're for and what you could set them to depending on what you're looking for. So right now you can see it says highway. There's a couple different modes that you can put the detector into. Highway is going to be the most sensitive mode. There's minimal filtering, so you're going to get maximum performance at the cost of some increased falsing. They do recommend for maximum performance, run it in highway mode, and that's the way to go. If you like, you can put it into auto mode. Auto will automatically help address some of the falsing that you'll get from drugstores and K-band and X-band stationary falses. So automatic opening doors, for example. If you're in the city a lot, you'll encounter those, and auto mode can help address some of the filtering or some of the falsing that you get on X-band and K-band. If you know for sure that there's no X-band used around, there's a lot of falsing that happens on X-band, so you can just turn X-band off completely. Here. Turn the volume up a little. So, yeah, if there's no X-band, turn on AutoNoX, and it'll make the detector quieter. Highway. I always run it on highway just because I don't like switching back and forth. And as far as dealing with a lot of the falses that you'll get from drugstores, that kind of stuff, if you pair it with Escort Live, you'll be able to lock out a lot of those signals using GPS, which frankly I think works a lot better. Really simple, you don't get any more K-band falses from drugstores, and that's the way to go. So there you go, that's highway mode. Now let's go ahead and take a look and go into the settings and play with the different options there. So let's see.
Preferences.
Okay.
Single letter.
So if you don't want it to say highway all the way across, you can just make it say, you know, H or A for auto, or I think it's like ANX for...
Completed.
Whoops. Okay. Go back in.
Preferences. Scanning dot.
So this is kind of cool. If you want it to have a little dot that goes back and forth on the screen
Completed.
while it's scanning, you can see it can do that. So that's kind of cool if you want a little Knight Rider type effect.
Scan vehicle voltage. Completed.
And the voltage, not many people use this. It'll actually just tell you the voltage that you're getting. I have seen this been pretty useful. Somebody actually diagnosed an issue with their alternator, found the voltage was closer to 12 volts instead of 14, realized their alternator was kind of going out, it was working on the battery. So they actually use this to help fix a car problem, but you never really run this in the real world. So
Preferences. Single letter.
I usually just do this just to kind of keep the screen clear, minimum distractions. So
Brightness. Auto.
okay, you can automatically have this screen go, you can adjust the brightness automatically. So
Minimum. Medium. Maximum.
you can see there's a couple different options.
Full dark. Auto.
So at night, it'll sense that, hey, it's darker outside, it'll make the screen dimmer so it doesn't blind you.
Minimum.
If you want to manually set it, you can do that.
Medium. Maximum. Full dark.
Or you can run it in full dark mode. This is pretty cool.
Completed.
So what this is for, you can see the detector now goes full dark. So if you're running this in an area where, you know, detectors are illegal, for example, you can run it in full dark, and when you get an alert,
K8 and
you'll see the detector will still give you the audio alert, so you'll know that something is going on, but it won't actually display there. So other people around you won't be able to see that there's lights flashing. So good if there's, you know, other police around you don't want them to see, or if it's just other drivers and you don't want them to know that you have a radar detector so they don't follow you and kind of use you as a rabbit, you can run it in full dark mode. And this is actually what I typically do. I'll run it in dark like this. And again, if you pair it with Escort Live on your phone, you'll actually see the signal strength, you'll see the frequency, you'll see all the information. You'll even be able to adjust the detector settings. So you can use that as a remote display and run the detector in full dark mode. So for maximum stealth, this is the way to go.
preferences. Pilot settings. Brightness. Auto.
Okay, we'll set it back to auto for now.
Alert lamp on.
Okay, so normally when it's alerting,
Completed.
we'll do this.
K8 and
So you can see there's that alert lamp right down there. You can turn that on and off if you like. It's kind of cool, not really necessary. If you want it, turn it on. If not, turn it off, no big deal.
power on sequence. Abbreviated.
Okay. If you want it to boot up a little bit faster, do that. I always run it in fast mode. There's also
Standard.
a standard mode. I never run it in here. I just think it takes a little bit longer. It tests the audio. It does some extra stuff.
Abbreviated.
Fast is the default mode. That's how I run it. Cool.
Meter options.
Okay.
Bar graph.
So this is cool. You've got a couple different options as far as how you want the alerts to actually display here on the screen. So standard.
Completed.
When it's in standard mode and there's an alert,
K-band.
you'll see the signal strength like that actually pop up. So the stronger the signal, the closer you are to it, the stronger it'll show there on the screen. Let's turn this down a bit. If you want, there are a couple different options,
Preferences.
which do have their own benefits.
Brightness on meter options.
Okay.
For expert meter.
So this is
Completed.
expert mode. What expert mode will do is, oops.
Multiple signals detected.
So that's kind of handy. What it'll do is it'll show you when you've got multiple signals. So it can display up to 2 K-band signals at a time, 2 Ka-band signals, and 4 X-band signals all simultaneously. So you can see up to 8 alerts going on all at the same time. So this is really cool. If you've got a couple signals, you've got, let's say, K-band alert in the
K-band.
And then all of a sudden, like, oh, turn the gun on. There's a K-band alert, and then all of a sudden, Ka-band kicks in as well.
Multiple signals detected.
There you go. So that's a cool way to actually see multiple signals that are going on. So you can see the signals as well as the signal strength of each individual signal. Again, if you pair it with Escort Live with your phone, it will show you not just the signal strength, but also the frequency of just one alert. You're not going to be able to see the frequency of all the alerts, but you will be able to see it with just one alert. So it'll give you the priority, like it'll show Ka-band instead of K-band frequencies. But that's a good way to see the frequency and see multiple signals at the same time.
Preferences.
Kind of like the V1 in that
Right.
sense.
Alert power on meter options. Spec mode.
Okay, so this is Spec mode.
Completed.
This is the one that I prefer to run. And what this does for you,
K-band.
okay, so that'll actually give you, as you can see, the, you can ignore those other beeps.
K-band.
So that's really handy. It's like, oh, 33.8, that must be an MPH gun. Look at that. So a good way of actually deciphering what frequency or what guns are being used is actually using this mode. So just based on the frequency alone, you can tell the brand of the gun. So you can tell, is it a stalker? Is it a custom gun? Is it an MPH gun? Depending on the frequency, you can tell, hey, is this state patrol? Is this city? If you know what's used in your area, you can tell, oh, hey, this is a handheld gun, it's whatever. And so just based on that, you can tell a lot. Even with K-band, it's not as reliable as Ka-band.
K-band.
But even with K-band, you can use just the frequency alone to a lot of times help differentiate between a real alert and a false alert from an Audi and its blind spot monitoring, for example. So this is the mode that I prefer to run just because I really like knowing the frequency of the signals. It tells you so much. So that's how I run it here, is in Spec mode.
Auto mute on.
Auto mute. So what this does is when there's an alert,
Off.
if you have it off, it'll just keep the volume on full tilt the whole time.
On.
If you turn it on, it'll initially alert at full volume, and then it will quiet the detector down. That way it doesn't, just keep screaming in your face.
Completed.
That's a good way of saying, hey, I know there's an alert. You got my attention, that's cool. Don't annoy me so much. I get the picture. So,
K-band.
and then you see how it goes quiet like that, it kind of reduces the volume. That's the auto mute settings. So, I prefer running with it on just because you get the alert, you get the picture, you can look at the detector, you can look at your phone, and you can see things going on. For dashcam videos, sometimes it's nice if you actually leave it off. That way you get the full volume and other people can hear the ramp up, they can hear the alert on the video. So in those situations, it's nice to turn it off.
Preferences.
Okay.
Voice on.
Voice. Okay, so that's cool. When it alerts, it'll say Ka-band or K-band. If you want to turn that off, you can do that. And then what happens is when you get an alert, notice it doesn't actually announce that it's K-band. And we can mute it just like that. So if you want to turn the voice off, you can do that. And then you'll just listen to the sound of the beep and you'll be able to differentiate the bands.
Bands. Default settings.
Okay, so here's where we're going to really start getting into things.
X-band on.
Alright, X-band. It's an old band. The antennas used for X-band are really big. Most places don't use X-band anymore. So in most places you can turn X-band off safely. It will reduce a lot of falsing. If X-band is used in your area, you might need to turn it on. There's only a couple states. But for most people, you can turn X-band off.
Preferences.
So we're going to go ahead and do that.
Right alert. Default X-band off.
And, oh yeah, you just press and hold this button to change the settings. This goes between different menu options.
K8 and on.
Okay, so you'll see right here, KA band. This is almost always legitimate. You can get falses on KA bands from other maybe poorly designed detectors, which do kind of leak out energy. It will cause detectors like this to false. So there's extra filtering that we'll get into here in just a bit that can help deal with that. But generally with KA band, it's almost always legitimate. However, KA band is a really wide range of frequencies. And what you can do is you can tell the detector, hey, police radar is really only in a couple small segments within KA band. What you can do is instead of sweeping everything, just sweep a couple portions where I know there's going to be police radar. This is going to have a couple benefits.
Preferences.
It's going to speed up the detector because it's not wasting time searching for, searching over frequencies where there's not going to be anything anyways. So it'll actually speed up the process.
K8 and on.
So to do this,
Off.
notice I have KA super wide. You are going to have the upgraded firmware on the Redline. This was released a little while ago from Escort.
Completed.
So what this does is it allows you to do a couple things. It allows you to, number one, segment the detector, and it allows you to turn off RDR, or radar detector rejection. We'll get into that again in just a second, but if you don't have the newest firmware, all current Redlines, if you buy it new, are shipping with this now. You can either send it back to Escort, I believe it's about $14 or so to have them update it and send it back, or if you have Escort Live, Android or iPhone, you can pair it with the detector and download the update over the internet for free. So that's what I did. If you have it available, go ahead and get it. It will help out tremendously. So definitely get this, and we're going to go ahead and go over the KA band segmentation settings next.
K8 and off.
So now that I've turned off KA band, it's going to allow me to turn on and off individual segments of KA band. If you don't turn off KA super wide, you're not actually going to be able to do this. So you do have to turn off KA band, which sounds a little weird, but you're going to have to turn it off to get to this menu. So you can see there's 10 individual segments of KA band. So let's go ahead and set up Redline the way most people are going to be using it.
K8 and off.
So what we're going to do, segment 1, you're going to have a lot of falsing from Cobras and stuff, so leave that one off. If you've got MPH brand guns, they operate at 33.8, okay, 33.8 gigahertz. That's going to be segment 2. If you've got Docker guns used in your area, probably the most popular brand, that's going to be 34.7. In that case, turn on band 5. And then finally, if you've got 35.5 guns, which is going to be Decatur and custom, if you've got 35.5 guns in the area, you're going to want to turn on band 8. And there we go. So if you're going to want to segment your detector, that's the way for most people just starting out, that's going to be your recommended settings.
Completed.
Okay. Now there are going to be a couple things that you're going to want to look out for. So let's talk about some of the dangers and the benefits of segmenting. Okay, so if you've seen some of my other videos regarding segmentation and out-of-tune guns, this is going to be familiar for you. But in short, what you're looking for is police guns tend to be within only certain frequency ranges. For example, MPH guns, like this B3 here on the left, when it operates,
K8 and
you can see, oh, and it's overdriving, that 34.0, ignore that. Sometimes when you have a radar gun super close to a detector, it messes with things and it doesn't quite display the right frequency, so ignore that. But basically, this is a 33.8 gun, and right now the Redline is unsegmented, so it's going to alert to every frequency in the KA band range. So B3s, like the one here on the left, are 33.8 guns. Stalkers are typically 34.7 guns. They're 34.7 plus minus about 100 megahertz is segment 5 on the Redline. So I've got this guy here, Stalker 2.
K8 and
So you'll see it's transmitting at 34.679. So 34.7 is what they're designed for, plus minus 100 megahertz. Okay, so this gun is in tune, it's operating just like it normally should. Now, there are some older guns like this Stalker ATR. A gun can just be out of tune, it needs to be calibrated, or some of the old ones, they are really rare, but they're designed for something other than 34.7. Now I'm going to move the detector, or the gun, a little bit farther away from the detector just so it doesn't mess with it, but look at that.
K8 and
You'll see that when I transmit that one, we're at 34.843. So the segment 5 is going to be plus minus 100 megahertz or so. With Escort it might be a little bit more, I'll have to take a look. But if you had band 6 turned off, it would not alert to this gun. So let's go ahead and do that now.
K8 and off.
Okay, got that off. So I'm going to go ahead and do this now. Segment 2, segment 5, segment 6, which is going to be this gun here, it's not going to alert to, and segment 8 we've got turned on. Okay?
Completed.
So now what we can do is we're going to go ahead and transmit this guy again, and you'll see we're getting no alert. So if you have your Redline segmented 258 and you happen to run across one of these really rare Stalker ATRs, you can get clocked without your detector ever alerting you. If the radar gun happens to just be out of tune and it hasn't been calibrated for a while, your detector may not alert. So this is the risk of segmentation. So you'll want to do your research to find out what guns are used in your area, because if you turn off the bands and there is a legitimate police gun that's being used there, your detector will not go off. So be careful when using that.
Preferences.
That's the risk. However, as long as you use it properly, it really helps to speed up the detector by not having to scan
Pilot
unnecessary
settings.
frequencies.
Single pop detection off.
Okay, pop. So pop mode, by default you can see it does ship with pop mode turned off.
On.
We're going to go ahead and turn that one on.
Completed.
We're going to take a look at what pop looks like on the Redline. So let's go ahead and fire it up here. Okay, so we got pop mode. So when there's a pop shot, that was a miss. Let's try it again. Miss. Miss. There we go.
Pop alert.
There you go. So there's a pop alert. Pop is a really brief burst of radar. It's designed to defeat radar detectors. You can see the Redline, even though it has pop mode turned on, it still missed some of the pop shots. You can't use it in court to actually say, hey, this guy was speeding and I clocked him in pop mode. That doesn't hold up due to some technical issues that arise with pop mode. It's also questionably accurate. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not accurate. Anyways, because it's used so rarely and it doesn't even hold up in court, Escort by default actually ships pop mode turned off. And one of the other things is it slows down the detector if you have to keep going back and looking for these short pop shots. So, for the sake of performance, turn off pop. It's going to speed up the detector by, again, not having to spend time looking for pop shots.
K8 and off.
Okay, for SWS mode, basically this was a feature that they tried to implement, never really took off. But the idea was that certain emergency vehicles, ambulances or street signs, they would actually post a text alert to people's radar detectors saying things like there's construction ahead, there's emergency vehicles approaching, that kind of stuff. And the idea was just to put a visual display on people's detectors. It never really took off, it's almost not used at all, and so you can just turn it off. I think with it on it does hurt K-band performance a little bit because it's spending more time again looking for these SWS signals, but they don't really exist that much. In short, no. Turn it off. It helps performance and it's not really used. Next, we're going to go ahead and address laser. Radar detectors are not the best for countering laser. Laser, as you know, it's like a thin beam of light. Oftentimes, if you're If that laser gun is actually shooting at the grille of your car, your license plate, your headlights, depending on where your detector is mounted and how sensitive it is to even detecting laser in the first place, there's a good chance that you can get shot with laser and your detector will actually never even alert. Best case scenario, if you get shot with laser and your detector does alert, your speed is already read instantly. So it's not a really good countermeasure to laser. You are going to need a set of laser jammers if you really want to help with laser, but you do have laser capabilities on the Redline. It's actually pretty good. So we've got ourselves a Custom Pro Laser 3 here. Let's go ahead and transmit.
Laser alert.
So if you see and hear that alert on the Redline, that's laser. Typically it's legit. There are some sources of falsing that you can get with laser, and if you're in an area where there's a lot of laser falsing and you have a lot of laser jammers, and you've got laser jammers on your car,
Preferences.
you could actually just go in and disable laser altogether out of the Redline.
Laser on.
So if you want, you can just disable laser altogether and you're good to go. Next we're going to go ahead and look at TSR. TSR stands for Traffic Sensor Rejection. Basically the idea is in some places in the country when you're driving down the highway, they use these special radar-based transmitters that help monitor the flow of traffic. And they can just see there's a lot of traffic, there's not much traffic, how fast it's moving, and they can help use that for, mapping stuff to just show people on their phones, whatever. Here's what traffic is like in all these different parts on the highway. Now the way it operates, it sends about a half-second burst of K-band every 60 seconds or so. And when you're driving down the highway, they have a bunch of these kind of dotting the side of the highway. And so about every minute, if you have these sensors in your area, your detector will actually give you a strong alert to K-band. And this can actually obviously lead to a lot of unnecessary and aggravating falsing. To combat this, there is a feature that helps filter out these sensors. And the way that it works, Traffic Sensor Rejection, or TSR, it basically just gives you a half-second delay for any and all K-band alerts. It slows down K-band alerting to introduce this delay, and it says if the signal is longer than half a second, alert to it. If it's half a second or shorter, it sounds like it could be one of these TSR signals, or these traffic signals, don't alert at all. And you can turn that feature on and off. It's called TSR. And to demonstrate this, I've got a K-band gun here on the left. This is the Falcon HR. This is going to be I'll go ahead and give you a quick alert. Okay.
K-band.
So what are we? 24.121. So cool. So we've got a handheld gun here with the trigger, and one of the risks is with TSR on, because it introduces that delay. It's going to be fun to demonstrate it and all, but basically for any sort of quick shots, such as quick trigger for example, on K-band the detector will, because of the filtering, actually miss the K-band shots. And so you can see if I'm doing quick shots like this, the detector is not going to alert because these signals are less than half a second. If I hold the trigger a little bit longer like that, it will alert. So it's basically actively filtering that out. So let's go ahead and go in now.
Preferences. TS off.
Okay, TSR off, Traffic Sensor Rejection. Now we've disabled that filter. So now what happens? Now that we've got TSR turned off, we can fire the gun. And there we go.
K-band.
So basically what happens now is the detector is going to be more responsive to short K-band alerts. Whether they're quick trigger, or they're just short alerts that, maybe way far away. You're just catching the slightest hint of the signal before it's strong enough to really, be like a long-lasting signal. So you'll be able to catch signals at close range and at farther range better just by turning off TSR. See that?
K-band.
So with that, it makes the detector more reactive, and it makes it essentially faster, and effectively does give you longer range as well. So again, for maximum performance, turn TSR off. Now, if you do have cars in the area that use the blind spot monitoring, think Audis, Buicks, Mazdas, things like that, they shoot a lot of really short pulses of radar to help gauge if there's cars sitting in your blind spot. TSR can filter some, not all, but some of these actual blind spot sensors out. So if you do have a lot of blind spot falsing, you can turn off. There you go.
K-band.
You can turn TSR on, and that actually will help with some of the falsing from cars and their blind spot monitoring systems. RDR. Okay. This is going to be a big, huge feature. Now, what this is going to be for,
Completed.
RDR off. You'll almost exclusively want to turn this off. With the new firmware that came out with the Redline, you got two main changes. One was the ability to segment the detector like we looked at earlier. The other one was to disable RDR filtering. Now what this is, some lower grade radar detectors can actually leak radio energy out, and the frequencies that they leak at can actually cause other detectors nearby to false alert. Cobras are especially notorious for this. Some Whistler brand detectors can do this too, and it's really annoying just to have the false alerts, especially because they're on Ka band, which is where a lot of police frequencies are. So, to help deal with this and minimize the falsing, the Redline has some filtering built in called radar detector rejection. I'm not going to go into the technicalities as far as how this works, but basically the idea is it spends a little bit more time doing some additional searching to see if, is that actually a police signal or is that a radar detector? Because there are some things that will look a little bit different. By enabling this filtering, it slows, again, the detector down because it has to spend more time determining, is this a real signal or is this a detector? Should I filter it out or should I let the alert through? So this extra filtering does slow down the detector, and it also does seem to reduce the maximum range. So by turning the filtering off, it's going to make the detector faster. It's going to alert quicker. It's going to alert sooner. It's going to miss fewer shots, especially the quick trigger shots, because it's not spending the extra time actually waiting. The Redline used to be called Sleeping Beauty, and one of the main reasons was because RDR, you couldn't turn it off. When it was turned on, the detector would just blatantly miss shots, and you could sit there and clock a car doing quick trigger and the detector would just flat out miss it. By turning off RDR, the detector is now lightning quick. It is super fast. It's really not going to miss any real world shots no matter how quick they are. As long as the detector can detect it, it will alert. So definitely turn that off. It helps tremendously. The only situation really is if you'd want to turn it on is if you've got a ton of falsing from other Cobras or other detectors, you could consider turning it on. You're still going to have fantastic range. You're just going to have reduced range and reduced reactivity. So performance is going to take a little bit of a hit, but it was still good before, but now it's spectacular. So I highly suggest turning off RDR. It is huge. So do that. So to summarize the recommended settings for maximum performance on the Redline, here's the way you're going to want to configure it. Highway mode, X-band off, K-band on, Ka super wide off. You're going to want 3 segments turned on, segments 2, 5, and 8. This may vary depending on what's going on in your area, but that's a good place to start. Segments 2, 5, and 8. Pop mode off, SWS off, laser on, doesn't hurt performance either way, TSR off, and RDR off. So the main ones really are segment the detector, get segments 2, 5, and 8 going, and definitely turn RDR off. Those are the main ones to look for. That's the new things that are going to be brought about with this new firmware. So cool. If you guys have any questions about the Redline, leave some comments below. Let me know what you think about the video, and if there's anything that I missed, anything else you guys are wondering about, definitely ask and I'll answer down there. So cool. Thanks for watching.